I think it's just like you've always said, like the reinventing yourself or rediscovering yourself, finding that purpose and your power. It's a different kind of power now at this age versus being 25. And it's figuring out navigating that new world of like not having maybe kids relying on you or not being in a as demanding career or wanting to do something entirely different in your life. And then having the faith, going back to the point around just jumping in with both feet, even if you feel like this imposter syndrome or what am I doing or this is super scary. I think it's just having the faith that you'll figure it out. And if you screw up, who cares?
Welcome to the Midlife Reinvention Podcast. I'm your host, Kavita, and the founder of Power Purpose Play, a global community of women in midlife. I'm here to tell you that it's your time now to rediscover what has always been inside of you and bring that out into the world. If you're wondering what's next, but don't know quite what that is, or if you feel a twinge in your heart telling you that you have so much more to do and so much more to offer, you're in the right place. Ask yourself, if not now, when? Do you want to leave your job, start your own business, take control of your health, reignite the passion in your marriage, write that book, or at least that first chapter? Transitions like this can be daunting, but through listening to my story and interviews with incredible women every week, I hope to inspire you to take action. I rediscovered myself after the age of 50, and I know you can too. It's my time now to help you do just that. I'm so excited you're here. Let's dive in. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Midlife Reinvention Podcast. I'm your host, Kavita Ahuja, and the founder of Power Purpose Play. We are a global platform which is dedicated to advancing the personal growth and inner power of women in midlife. Our goal is really to help you rediscover yourself as you move forward in the next chapter of your life. To that end, I interview incredible women every week who will serve as an inspiration for you to take that little twinge in your heart and act upon it. My guest this week will no doubt inspire you as she has inspired me. I welcome Cynthia Hastings-James to the podcast today.
Thank you.
Yes, I was just going to give you a little introduction. With a focus on disruptive technology, Cynthia's passion lies in creative problem solving to optimize population well-being. Throughout her career, she's held various senior roles in digital development for high-profile banking and healthcare clients. Her entrepreneurial ventures include starting rxbriefcase.com, the leading provider of pharmacist education online, and BestLifeRewarded Innovations, the leading health behavior change platform, which was recently acquired by People Corporation in March of this year. Originally from Halifax, Nova Scotia, Cynthia spends most of her adult life in Toronto for over 25 years and now lives in Dundas, Ontario. She has 2 adult children living in British Columbia and is passionate about adventure travel, giving back, and staying physically active. Well, what a great introduction, Cynthia. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, I'm excited to have you here. As I mentioned in the introduction, we just love hearing stories of women who are inspiring and have had a vision for something and actually have achieved that vision. And based on the bio that I just read, you've done that. Especially with, I was reading that with Best Life Rewarded, for example, you actually had the goal to change the face of healthcare in Canada, which is incredible. And so congratulations also for the recent joining People Corporation as well.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been super exciting. It's been a great merger and amazing potential and growth with that group. So it's been quite an adventure to get to this stage, but we're super happy with where we're at today.
Fantastic. That's fantastic. I would like to, however, learn a little bit about how you started, Cynthia. So I wanted to if you could tell us a little bit, our audience, a little bit about your story and how you came to be this leading force in healthcare in Canada. And also, where did you get this incredible vision and drive to even get started?
Okay, sure. So I wish I could say this drive was sort of some innate ability, but I think where it actually stemmed from was sort of more of a survival mechanism from early days. I had a family situation that maybe wasn't ideal early days and ended up actually living on the street at 16 and had some interesting experiences through that. Started off living in a security office at Bayview Village Shopping Mall and just had my work uniform essentially on my back. I was working in Loblaws back then in that mall. And a security guard sort of took pity on me and allowed me to stay in there for a bit. And then ended up couch surfing on some friends' places where their parents were away. And just really through that and eventually getting an apartment and kind of living on my own in a rooming house for $400 a month, I remember, because it was like all I could afford, but it was at Bathurst and Steele's in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
And just had this really interesting experience with a lady that was my next door neighbor in the rooming house. And she had an interesting life. She was a lady of the evening, let's call it. We would, she kind of took me under her wing, and I used to just go with her to this coffee time around the corner. And, she would do her thing, meeting all of her quote boyfriends in the parking lot. And I would just sort of sit in the coffee shop, making sure she got back and that she was okay. And she'd buy me a donut and kind of look after me as a mothering figure. And I think through that experience and just sort of having to grow up early and be exposed to that lifestyle and just be so fascinated with this lady's lifestyle and her ability to just adapt and function with what she had to do. And it just sort of inspired me that I never want to be in a situation where money's an issue or I can't afford food or the basic survival things of a roof over your head and being able to eat and have the basic sort of necessities of life. And I looked at this lady who was, for sure, from my perspective, living horrific lifestyle, but she adapted. She was fine. She was super kind, loving person. She was doing what she had to do to survive. And at that point, at 16, I just said, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get myself financially secure. I never want to have to think or worry about money. I'm going to do whatever it takes to sort of push myself forward to take advantage of every career opportunity and learning and kind of move it forward. So that early days, that sort of survival mechanism kicking in is probably what was a big driver behind my motivation to always be jumping on the next career opportunity and trying to learn and grow and adapt and always try to get that next title of a director and a VP and a president. And I always kind of wanted to hit that next milestone. And I did all those things. And looking back, I think it was a combination of just that fear of not having, that thinking about that lady and what she had to do. And just always having that kind of personality that would persevere. So that was a big driver and a big influence early days. And then I always just wanted to prove myself. I think I had this never-ending need to get the next interesting big thing in my career. And that kind of was a big driver. So I met Suzanne, my business partner, Suzanne Cookson. She was a client of mine actually in a business, that RX Briefcase pharmacist education business. She and I just were kindred spirits. We'd meet at conferences and have a glass of wine and chat about the industry. And she was a fairly senior role at a pharmaceutical company. And we together both were sort of drivers in our family, the breadwinners and strong personalities, let's say, when it comes to careers and supporting other powerful women. And she and I came together and over a napkin, at a conference with a glass of wine, kind of mapped out this concept of this business.
Wow.
And in hindsight, looking back, it was pretty nutty, with both of us with young families and being the primary breadwinner. To take that leap and sort of be all in on this business, this is back in 2010, was a scary step, but we just somehow knew we would make it work. We had to make it work. We didn't have really a choice to fail, either one of us. So we kind of together were able to land some pretty amazing contracts early days with a PowerPoint presentation and, vaporware, as they called it in the tech world. And I think because of our confidence and backgrounds and credibility, we were able to leverage that to really have people trust us, that when we say we're going to do something, we do it and we deliver.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so long-winded answer, but
I cannot firstly, if somebody looks at you and reading your bio and looking at all your accomplishments, you'd never imagine the background, how you grew up and the story you just told about how you were couch surfing in the rooming house and the lady that you met who was so kind to you in the coffee shop, and all that kind of led to one after the other led you to really adapt and have the fear of not wanting to have that you go on in your life. And how did you get from there to like the actual deciding to go in the healthcare industry? Like, how did that?
Yeah, interesting journey. I mean, I always had this drive to travel. So I ended up taking a year and a half off, like partway through university. I worked 3 jobs and I went over to France and did half a year of school in France and had these incredible experiences of sort of traveling all over Europe on weekends and meeting these amazing people from around the world. And came back from that. And I just knew that I needed to find some kind of job that would really challenge me and be interesting. So, of course, 25 years old or something, no contacts, and everything in business is all about networking. So it's tough when you're first starting out, for sure. I landed a job working at Canada Newswire, which was a news release distribution service. And I was hired to basically be a list manager, which meant that I had to like cold call all these brokerages and analysts and create a list of all their names and phone numbers. So I started off as a administrative job, let's call it, and quickly got bored and then convinced people there that this internet thing was not a fad. Like they thought it was going to be like one of these come and go and flavor of the week things. So I was able to work with the team there to create essentially one of the first websites in Canada.
Really?
I was still in my mid-20s and we created the Canada Newswire website. And then from there, it kind of like I got into digital. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed this e-commerce and idea of like all these eyeballs from around the world looking at content and this endless, like limitless possibilities of like what that could mean from a business standpoint. And of course, still totally green and naive about what all that meant, but I just saw this potential. So I knew that I had to focus on digital stuff. And then I went into the agency world, which was a really good experience to get exposure to all kinds of different businesses. So I worked on everything from Harlequin romances to Sears catalog online to TD Bank.
Wow.
And
you're a real pioneer then.
Private markets. Yeah, I did everything, banking and healthcare a little bit back then. And then from there, I moved into medical education. So that was a real eye-opener about educating doctors and pharmacists around clinical practice guidelines and doing websites for global healthcare professionals. And really interesting, but it just really sparked an interest in this healthcare sector. So I'd say I was more of an opportunist when it came to jobs. I didn't have some kind of grand plan saying this is where I want to be, or I didn't have any vision about a career per se that I wanted to go for. It was more so I wanted more money, more titles, more things to like put under my belt and then go from there.
Yeah, I think you also, I mean, from what it sounds like, you also kind of followed the breadcrumbs, right? And also really realize what you were good at. And I mean, having the opportunity to look at digital back then. And that's what I really encourage for people, especially women, is to look at what their strengths are and really to go for it. And it sounds like you did that. And so I was curious as to how you went from one to the other. So thanks for sharing that. It's really interesting. And one of the things also that we talk about here is really to inspire women is to realize their true potential. And there's many ways of doing that. But what happens often is that people lack courage to really go after what they really want. And it sounds like from all your adventures, I would say that you probably had a lot of courage to go after the next and the opportunities. So based on your experience, what could you advise women or say who may be feeling not confident in themselves?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I mean, I guess give off some kind of perception that I have all this courage and confidence, but I never really did. I mean, I always behind the scenes was super insecure. Like I had all these sort of fears from childhood abandonment, and I was really overweight like throughout high school, and kind of always had this persona of this like fat like girl who didn't have any worth. So it was really challenging to jump to that next thing or put myself out there or like jump into a job where the fake it till you make it kind of thing. Like, I mean, I did that some more times than I could count, where I knew I was going in knowing nothing, but I always like had this sense that I'd figure it out. So I think it's having some faith in yourself that you will figure it out. Maybe You start off with this imposter syndrome situation. You come into some job where you like, I'm not qualified in a million years to do this. So I think it's just knowing that you can figure it out, having faith in yourself, that you'll navigate, you'll ask the right people, you'll lean on trusted allies. I found women throughout my career just so supportive and encouraging.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of find your tribe of people that you know will have your back and want you to be successful and will do whatever they can to support that growth or support that next step. And sometimes you don't always have the faith and the confidence in yourself. And it's easy to get into that negative self-talk and I can't do this. And what am I thinking? Like, this is impossible. But for some reason, I think maybe even going back to that survival mechanism, I always just sort of told myself, well, you have to do it. Like, just get your stuff together and just
you can say the word. It's okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just a combination of like sort of this perseverance and like powering through. Like a lot of times, even though I was super scared of all these things I was doing in these jobs and these big meetings with a whole bunch of old guys around a table, and I'd be so scared, but I would just force myself to do it and know that the biggest barrier is basically your own fear in the world. And if you can just like push through it, and I mean, the growth that you can see on the other side by sort of addressing those fears and jumping in with both feet and doing things that make you uncomfortable. I mean, in the moment, it doesn't feel great. Like, it's really scary. And of course, the sleepless nights and everything else leading up to those things. But payoff is so great, even if you screw up, like even if you can't do it or you can't be successful or whatever that might look like. On the other side of it, the learnings that you get from that experience and feeling proud of yourself or feeling good that you actually took a chance and you're not just in your usual routine doing the usual things. Like they say, growth always comes from fear, like being scared. Like, you know, where you grow in life is by putting yourself in scary situations or uncomfortable situations. And in my experience, that's totally true.
Yeah, it's about getting yourself out of the comfort zone. It's so, whatever you just said, it just resonates so much with me. I was just speaking with my husband this morning, for example, because I've kind of put myself out there a lot in the last couple of years. I never would have imagined I would have done that. In fact, I've started doing videos online and it's like, oh my God, you know, there's certain things that you have a fear of, or you think that you're not good enough or you're not going to do it. But it's like you do it. When you're doing it, it's not a good feeling, like you said. But once you put yourself out there and you get over that and actually do it, it's actually a feeling of accomplishment and growth.
Exactly.
And yeah, I mean, I think what you mentioned is one of the next question, you've kind of gone through it, but in terms of these blocks that we have for ourselves. And often as I speak to many women, it's like when I'm not good enough or I'm not qualified enough, or it's these inner blocks, their own limiting beliefs. And you've gone through some of what you had experienced, but I think it's so important to firstly recognize those blocks and then find ways to lessen them. So what you said is like perfect, is jumping in with both feet and just recognizing and be proud of yourself. So is there any other things, any other ways to lessen these?
I think unfortunately, we all go to that negative self-talk. I think that's just a sort of, unfortunately, a natural thing that we all do, is questioning ourselves all the time or comparing ourselves to others. And how come they're so successful and smart and beautiful? How come I'm not? And what am I thinking I'm doing here? Like all that negative self-talk. And I mean, I've done it forever too. Like everyone does it, but it's trying to control it. And lots of stuff's working against us in this world, but there's also lots of things that are like helping us. And just with an attitude shift, I think you can find that the world will really open up. And the mentality of kind of the jumping in with both feet and just trusting that you'll be able to navigate whatever it is, the uncomfortable situation, or pushing yourself to try something different or new. Through that process, I think there's all these realizations that we all do have the right tools. Like as I've gotten older, I mean, I turned 50 this year, so that was kind of a big milestone. But I think what I've realized later in my career, let's say, is that all these people that I used to, like early days, perceive as this business god, like they're so smart and they're so accomplished and they have so many letters behind their names and all these titles and accolades. And like, as I've gone through my career and I've started to be at tables with some of these people, I'm going now, like, they're no smarter than the rest of us. They don't have any extra skill set. Like, we all bring our unique talents and abilities, and maybe they know how to navigate the system better than some of other people out there. Like, they know how to work it politically or personality wise, but they don't have anything better or more than the rest of us. So I think that realization that these people that I idolized in business, let's say, and then figuring out that they actually are real people with insecurities too, and they have their own qualms and hiccups and negative self-talk and all that other stuff. It's been for me, a massive like leveling of the playing field, let's say, where now it's like I don't have these pedestals where I'm putting people, like, we're all the same.
Yes, it's so true. It's so true. And I think we realize that as we grow older, because when we're younger and we're trying to climb the ladder or whatever, you put these pedestals on people and you think, oh my goodness, like they're so-and-so, I could never do that, or I could never do this. But I think you're so right. As we grow older, it's like, yeah, they're just like everybody else. And that really does help build the confidence. So it's a great point. Just on that, you mentioned in it just something about being on a table with all these old men. And
yeah.
So maybe you can talk a little bit about that in terms of being the successful businesswoman. What are some of the challenges that you faced as a woman? And do you think that this is changing? There's more opportunities now? Obviously you and Suzanne have built this amazing corporation and done so well. What are some of the things that you've noticed along the way?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could say that there's equality and equity and all of that. And unfortunately, I think our pandemic has put women back probably 20 plus years. I mean, they call it the great she-cession now, with women being the ones that have to give up their jobs and look after the kids at home because schools shut down and all this stuff. So unfortunately, the last couple of years have probably put us back overall, like over 20 years, they're saying, in terms of equal rights. So that's been difficult. But I would say, not to be cynical about it, but I wouldn't say there's been that much change in my 25, 30 years of my career in terms of sexism and some of the glass ceiling issues that still live today. I mean, I would say there's superficial change where there's these putting percentages of board members for women and BIPOC populations on boards and all this stuff, which, I mean, I get the purpose behind that. I think it's important to try to do that, but people should just be getting the jobs based on merit and based on what they bring to the table, and not because you need 40% BIPOC and 10% female or whatever the thing is. I mean, to me, that it just feels like you're trying to put a Band-Aid on more of a systemic issue by just saying, well, what do you mean we have 50% of our board is made up of minorities now? Or, I mean, it just, when you see the actual day-to-day at very large organizations, for the most part, pay scales way out of whack for male versus female. The senior management positions are still way out of whack. I think as much as we're all trying to move towards equality, like, I don't think it's there.
Right.
I've always experienced sexism in varying degrees in different jobs and different types of industries. But I would say that we have a long way to go. Like, my hope is when our kids are really, like, say 20 years from now, that we don't need to be saying 40% of your board should be minorities or women.
Right.
I think
exactly.
It should just be that, because they bring equal value, if not more value, to the table, and they're the right candidate for the job, not because of their ethnicity or gender or whatever. I mean, to me, that just, it's almost like a bit of a slap in the face that we have to put these mandates in place.
Yes, exactly.
To fill these roles and try and diversify senior management roles in business. I mean, women are underfunded when you look at venture capital or private equity investments. I mean, it's insane numbers, like 100-to-1 investment in male versus female owned businesses. I mean, the stats are all out there. I mean, we've all seen it.
Yes.
So I think we have a long way to go. I think day to day, it doesn't impact us. We have a team that's always been 80% women at our company, and it's not necessarily by design, I think, but it just works. Like, it just happened to be that way. We have amazing male colleagues as well, but for some reason, Suzanne and I maybe just gravitated towards strong female colleagues, and it just kind of worked out like that. And we have a great working environment, lots of multitasking, lots of really collaborative, supportive teamwork.
Mm-hmm.
And the morale, I would say, and like the fostering of support of others and mentoring is great. Like, I mean, I think there's a real nurturing aspect to women in business that should be fostered more versus like put on the side. Like a lot of us don't know how to act when we're around a table, where you don't want to be perceived as too aggressive or too in their face, but you also don't want to be too feminine because you don't want to be like a doormat. So it's a real challenge to like own it as a woman and own your power. Like I find it very difficult.
Yes. And I think it's about an attitude change, but I think it's also for women themselves. It's like sometimes we'll do things to undermine our confidence, and we will say things like, I'm no expert, or I'm just here to, the words that we say can also undermine our confidence. And so what you said about the pandemic and going back 20 years, that's really kind of sad, but it's true. I mean, and I think until attitudes change, not so much the restrictions on, or like the mechanisms of having so many people on the boards. It's not that, it's about the attitudes that need to change.
Yeah. This is fun to me. A fundamental change, like ground level. Like, I mean, anyone starting a career, regardless of gender, race, whatever, everyone should have an equal chance to prove themselves. And there shouldn't be a one-up because you're white or you're this age or from that background or whatever. We need to move to like giving everyone a level playing field, and then, hey, have at it. Like if somebody excels over another person, great. Like they've actually earned the position based on their merits, not on the system of like fostering a certain look of people or a certain standard of, I don't know why we have it. It's just because it's been like that forever. So,
well, it starts with leaders like you. So, I mean, kudos to you for the more we talk about it, hopefully the more it changes, right?
So, yeah, that's the hope. I hope by the time our kids are like really, or even our grandkids, that it's not even an issue for discussion anymore. It just is like, it just is equal and everybody has an equal chance to succeed.
Exactly. So just to kind of maybe switch a little, I love what you do and the focus on your wellness, because I actually was in the pharmaceutical industry as well for 20 years. So I completely relate. And I was just thinking about how the pandemic in the last 2 years has really forced us to rethink our wellness and health and wellness. So for me, I think a lot of people, and for me as well, have gone kind of inwards and thinking about how can we improve our health internally. And for me, it's like I've done a lot more meditation and stillness and self-care. And based on your experience and being in this industry, what do you say some of the lessons we can learn from the last 2 years to improve our well-being?
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster, that's for sure. I mean, we're seeing, just in general in the industry, we're seeing really scary mental health issues as a result of the pandemic. I mean, anxiety's through the roof. People are feeling lonely and isolated, not sure what the future looks like, going back to work. There's a ton of like resistance and anxiety about whatever the new normal is. And am I going back to the office? Am I not going to the office? Like, what is this all? Where are we going to net out here? So it's been extremely challenging. We're seeing substance abuse issues like going up significantly, where people, I guess, are self-medicating with alcohol or drugs, like trying to deal with all that anxiety and turmoil in their lives. I think there's been sort of this mass exodus or resignations where people are having these essentially epiphanies, like, I don't want to be in this, working in a job that I hate. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, life is short. Like, why are we doing all these things just because we think we have to do them? So people are dropping everything, selling everything, like leaving the country, like just doing something right out there, starting a farm, or like I've heard all kinds of stories of people that have just like quit the corporate world or whatever their other job was and said, enough, like I'm done with this shit. It's about enjoying life. It's not about being in this rat race. So lots of things going on from a wellness standpoint. I mean, what we've found is that everybody's different. Everybody has their own way of sort of coping and adapting and building resilience. And in our software that we develop, we really try to focus on allowing people to It's called self-determination theory, meaning let them make a choice. Like, we're not going to cram down their throat that they should focus on mental health. Like, maybe they want to focus on financial health or saving for a rainy day or moving to that different country or doing something different, like starting a business. I mean, we're not here to tell them what they should be doing. We're just saying, you decide what motivates you. And then here's some support tools to try to help you to find those right things that are going to make you feel better, make you feel less anxious or more resilient or stronger or better financial future, savings for retirement, like all of those things. And for me, it's been tough. Like, I mean, we've been working from home since March of 2020, and we had that really tight knit team of these amazing colleagues, and it was a great environment. And I definitely miss seeing our team face to face. And I feel like I'm in this Groundhog Day. You go from your bed to your desk to the couch to your bed and repeat over and over again for a year and a half. So for me, I've tried to embrace some online fitness classes. So I found a really great community of women where we're doing these online classes and getting out for hikes, like just getting some fresh air and taking a break from sitting in front of the screen for 10 hours a day. And just trying to remind yourself that it's okay to not be okay too. That's tough. Like, everybody has their moments where you sort of want to be in the fetal position in the corner crying because it's a lot, like it's overwhelming. And there's a lot coming at us, and the news is so overwhelming, hearing all these negatives and environment and COVID and people getting sick and disasters happening everywhere. I mean, it's really tough to maintain like a sense of well-being with all that. So it's okay to just not be jumping for joy all the time.
Yes. It's okay. It's okay to be not okay.
Allow ourselves to just be in it, and then try to figure out ways that make us happy or help us to reduce that anxiety. So it's a really personalized thing, but it's been hard for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you touched on so many things, and I think one of the things about mental health that's I just had an interview with Deborah Gillis, is like president of CAMH, and she was talking about all the initiatives that they've gone through and they've instituted. And that's really interesting, that self-determination theory. I mean, I think that's important because it's individualized, right? It's like what motivates you, what makes you internally happy. And I think that's so important when we focus in on what is important to us and what is going to help us. And it's individual. It can be, as you said, it can be going for a walk. It can be surrounding yourself with a team, a group of people that have like-minded people. But I think that's key. And I like that. I'd like to learn more about that, actually. So, hi, my friend. Kavita here. Do you often feel blocked from moving forward? We all feel that way at times. These are referred to as energy blocks. I've created a short, actionable PDF guide to help you release your negative energy blocks. Click the link in the description to download it now for free. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just like trying to figure out what motivates you. Like, so we may know from clinical practice guidelines that we need to eat certain fruits and vegetables per day and exercise 150 minutes a week and not smoke and don't drink too much. Like, we all know those things that we should do, but frankly, life gets in the way. Like, things happen. You don't have time to make a healthy salad for lunch. So you eat a Big Mac, and that happens. It's just life. And what we have to do is like meet people where they are, meaning if this person that really should be focusing on getting their activity doesn't care about exercise and they're not motivated at all, like maybe we focus on something else. Maybe it's just creating a budget. And then by creating that budget, it gives them the sense of empowerment that, hey, I can get on top of my finances, so I don't have to stress and lose sleep about paying the rent. So once I get that in control and I have this sort of, I'm empowered and I'm intrinsically motivated related to that, then I can maybe tackle, okay, I'll start walking and getting the exercise I need. But it's not up to us to tell that person, no, you need to start over here. Like, every individual has their own motivation and their own needs and their own situations. And we have to respect that. Like, I mean, everybody needs to do things in their own way. And it's just trying to create those best conditions for success so people can pick and choose what they want to do. And hey, we all fall off the wagon. We all make mistakes. We all screw up. And it's just about trying to continue to make the effort at the end of the day.
Yes. Yeah, it's so true. And that reminds me of the course that I'm launching. The first thing we do is we go through, it's called the Wheel of Life. And I don't know if you've done that, but it really categorizes your life into 8 categories. And it's up to you to determine which of those categories do you really want to work on first, which is most important. What do you feel like you need to work most on? So it is individual, and it can be career, it can be health, it can be family, it can be relationships, it can be any one of those. And that's, I guess, especially now, I'm going into midlife, and I wanted to get your opinion on this because happy birthday. So as we move into midlife, there's this, I guess, stereotype that it's a crisis. And I really hate that. And that's one of the reasons I created this platform is because I view it as an opportunity. And just like you said, what motivates you to move on. And we have I believe, a great opportunity to look at the next stage of life and say, well, what do we want to do next? And how can we get there? So just your thoughts on that, perhaps.
Sure. Yeah. 50 it's bittersweet, I would say. I feel like I'm not one of those people where age number matters. But 50 was a bit of a gulp factor. I don't know, it kind of hit me. I was surprised that it became a big deal to me.
Did it? Yeah.
After it happened. I mean, I had a wonderful celebration in COVID. We had my girlfriend, Suzanne, actually my business partner, who's also one of my best friends, organized a beautiful getaway to St. Anne's. And we had this gorgeous 4-day getaway with our friends. And it was a wonderful celebration. But then after that, I kind of had the gulp factor moment of I'm 50, holy cow, that's I used to think that was so old. And now I'm all of a sudden here, what's happening?
Yes.
So I hear you. The bittersweet of there's such a world of opportunity, to your point, where it's the world's my oyster now. I've kind of gotten through the stage of raising the kids and setting them up, and they're off on their own now. And I'm career-wise, kind of at a different point, selling the company and moving into the next chapter. And I have a ton of excitement, and I'm super looking forward to doing your course because I can't wait to explore and figure out what my priorities are and passions are and my purpose. So that to me is a big element of sort of my future planning as I want to go through that exercise and just essentially rediscover myself. I mean, being in this sort of career mode and survival of next, always trying to do the next milestone or achievement or all that stuff. I didn't really take a breath at all through all of it. For 30 years, I haven't taken a breath, and it's been amazing. I don't regret 1 second of it, but at the same time, I'm kind of probably what the bitter part of the bittersweet is I'm going, oh my, I'm 50. I don't even know what I like anymore.
Right.
Because you just get caught up in the kids and the job and the lifestyle and going at 100 miles an hour all the time. And you sort of step back and go, wow, I'm in midlife and I need to figure out what I'm doing now for me, this next chapter, which is super exciting and super scary, but I can't wait for the journey. I can't wait to start figuring out what that looks like. I mean, traveling more, watching my kids thrive, see what they do next. And when they build their own families, being there for them, all of that stuff. I cannot wait, but it like anything, it's a journey. I mean, it's going to be another whole learning experience of first time on my own in 25, 30 years without mouths to feed and all those tasks that you have to do.
It's so true. It's so true because as women, it's so interesting because we, like you mentioned with your kids, I have 2 boys as well, and they've gone away, they're away, and my husband and I and our puppy, but you ask yourself, who am I really? And I kind of, because you play these roles, right? You play the role of a businesswoman and the mother and whatever. And then it's well, it sounds funny, but it's my course name. It's my time now. It is my time now. So what do I do with it? Right. How do I best maximize the time that, and then a lot of time that we have. It's half our lifestyle ahead of us. So yeah, it is it's bittersweet for sure, but I think it's more exciting. Like, I think that's the way I want women to look at it.
Yeah.
As more as an opportunity. And it's like time to rediscover who you really are and what you really want. And so that's the whole reason I'm doing this. So
exactly. I love it. I love what you're doing. I think there's a big need for it. And I think for sure it's bittersweet, but I would say 90% sweet, 10% bitter. Like, exactly. I mean, I'm leaning more on the sweet side. And I think it's just, like you've always said, like the reinventing yourself or rediscovering yourself, finding that purpose and your power. It's a different kind of power now at this age versus being 25. And it's figuring out, navigating that new world of like not having maybe kids relying on you, or not being in a as demanding career, or wanting to do something entirely different in your life. And then having the faith, going back to the point around just jumping in with both feet, even if you feel like this imposter syndrome, or what am I doing, or this is super scary. I think it's just having the faith that you'll figure it out. And if you screw up, I mean, who cares?
Exactly.
Just laugh at you. You got to laugh at it.
I love that. Who cares? Yeah. Yeah. Nobody really. It's just you.
Judging it anymore. Yeah. Like, I mean, early days, you think you're going to be judged and all that. But at this stage, you're kind of like the filter factor and the worrying about what others think it's empowering just to not care about that stuff anymore.
It is. Yeah. Absolutely. That's funny. Who cares? Yeah. Cynthia, you mentioned that you're passionate about adventure travel and all that. So what's next for you, and what are you most looking forward to?
Yeah, I love travel. Like, I've climbed Kilimanjaro, and I've gone to Nicaragua.
I was born in Kenya.
Oh, you're kidding? Oh, I've been to Kenya a few times too. Yeah. Gorgeous. Absolutely love it. Mm-hmm. So I like trips where you're doing stuff like physical things. And my kids and I a couple of times have done these trips to Nicaragua with a group called Seeds of Learning and Winds of Change in Canada. It's run by a friend of mine. And I mean, it's just such an amazing trip to go, and you work with the community, working on an elementary school to either we built a kitchen the last time, and then the time before that just renovated, sort of painted and cleaned it all up and brought school supplies. But for me, like, that kind of bonding experience with my kids, and also feeling physically exhausted. You're sitting in front of a computer all day long. Yeah. Typing away and coming up with documents. Like, it's a different kind of satisfaction versus seeing like a school painted, the starting point versus the end point of that finished product and the physical manifestation of the work.
It's beautiful.
So that I love. So I want to do more things like that, like volunteering trips or adventure kind of travel. Like, I don't think I have a lot of interest anymore in sitting on a beach and all you can eat buffets and all you can drink stuff. Like, I'm kind of over that stuff. And I just want to, like, there's nothing better to me than putting your head on the pillow at night and being physically exhausted. Like, you've put in a really hard day of physical labor or physical exertion, and you feel good. Like, you're actually doing something that maybe would make a difference for someone else. Like, that's what I want to focus on moving forward. I don't know what that looks like yet. I mean, I haven't quite freed up enough time to do my research, but that'll be part of when I'm doing your program, is like rediscovering like what really is my passion, like where are the areas that I do want to focus, and then I can design travel and experiences to foster that.
That's fantastic. So I think as we think about the future, I think giving back and thinking about who is it that we want to serve, and how do we want to make life better for other people as well. That's really important. And I hope it is for other people as well. So those are great goals for you, and look forward to hearing what happens next, and love to be on the journey with you. So
thank you,
Cynthia. I love the conversation, and just you're telling us about how you started and how you persevered and became such a successful in your career, and it sounds like in your life, and seems like you're a wonderful mother as well. So
thanks.
Just wanted to thank you so much for all your insights. And I know that for me, as I said before, I was very motivated by you, and I'm sure that our listeners will be very motivated to hear all your great advice and insights.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And yeah, I mean, if I can help anyone, sort of inspire them to take that risk and just believe in yourself. I mean, I know it's not easy. Trust me, I came from a very sort of insecure background and a lot of self-doubt, but just try something, do a little risk and put yourself out there, make yourself uncomfortable. And I think you can surprise yourself about what you can actually do if you just get over that immediate fear.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do anything too crazy out of the gate, but start small. Just do a different social situation or force yourself to go meet people. Like even that sometimes is super scary, like walking into a room of strangers and having to go up to someone and make a conversation. Like that can be like extremely scary. So
especially now after being home for 2 years, right? It's like, oh my God, I have to see people in person. That must be, I'm sure that's hard for a lot of people thinking about that because we've been in as you said, going from our bed to our couch to this desk. It's like, it's cozy for us, but now it's opening up. So that can also create a lot of anxiety, but you're right.
Yeah, for sure. So just try little things. I mean, that's always, I think, the best way to get more confidence. It just builds, it snowballs once you do little things and you get that sense of accomplishment from that. Like I find that, and being on the other side of taking that big risk, you can actually pat yourself on the back and feel good about it. So I know it's not easy, but that's my advice is just try.
Oh, and I'll end it there because I can't top that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Cynthia.
All right.
I was so motivated by Cynthia's story, as I'm sure you were too. Who wouldn't be? Going from living on the streets as a teenager to running some of the largest healthcare organizations in Canada, Cynthia is the epitome of having faith in yourself that you can indeed figure it out. The fact that she's looking now to rediscover herself after such an incredible career is a testament to how we can all continually evolve and grow. Here are her key takeaways. Number 1, have faith in yourself that you will indeed figure it out. You might start off with imposter syndrome, like, I'm not qualified enough to do this, but know that you can figure it out. You'll navigate, you'll ask the right people. Find your tribe of people who you know will have your back and want you to be successful. Number 2, the biggest barrier is basically your own fear. If you can just push through it, you will see growth on the other side by addressing those fears and jumping in with both feet and doing things that make you uncomfortable. Growth always comes from being scared. Number 3, our perceptions of others is just that. People with big titles and roles are no smarter than the rest of us. Maybe they just know how to navigate the system better than us. We all bring our own unique talents and abilities to the table. They don't have anything better or more than the rest of us. 4, they call it the Great She Session. Now, where during the pandemic, women have gone back, unfortunately, 20 years. We have a long way to go to reach equality in the workforce. There needs to be a fundamental change at the ground level. Everyone should have an equal chance to prove themselves. There shouldn't be a one-up because you're white or this age or from that background. We need to move to giving everyone a level playing field. Number 5, we are seeing a really scary mental health issues since the pandemic, along with mass resignations. By using self-determination theory, we can let people make a choice on what will help them in their wellness. You decide what motivates you, and we offer support tools to help you find the right things to make you feel better. 6, reinventing yourself or rediscovering yourself in midlife is exciting. Finding your purpose and your power. It's a different kind of power now. For sure, it's bittersweet, but it's 90% sweet and 10% bitter. 7, just believe in yourself. It's not easy, but try something. Take a little risk and put yourself out there. Make yourself uncomfortable, and you can surprise yourself about what you can actually do if you get over that immediate fear. Thank you so much for being here. You could be many places, so we appreciate you taking time for yourself, for your own personal growth. This is such an exciting time for us here at Power Purpose Display because we are launching our signature course, It's My Time Now, How to Rediscover Yourself in Midlife, on Monday, November 15th. As Cynthia mentioned, she's looking forward to going on this journey of rediscovery with me as her guide, and I would love for you to as well. I reinvented myself after 50, and I'm giving you the exact framework and process I used to get where I am today. It's all about finding yourself again, and I'm your guide on this incredible journey. All the details are in the links below, and until the end of the day on November 15th, I'm excited to share also that we're offering a special price of $100 off. For only $197, you can access this life-changing course online. Will you take the time for yourself? Our independent learning course, as I said, is open on November 15th, and we're taking registration now. Register now to receive this limited special offer. Our group coaching will begin in the new year, but you can also have me as your personal coach, guiding you through the process of rediscovering in private one-on-one sessions. As Cynthia so eloquently said, find your new purpose and power, because it's a different kind of power. If you're wondering what's next in your life, I know I can help you figure that out. Till next week, my friend, in love and in light.